What's going on, everybody? It is another MLS Monday by Scarves and Spikes post Super Bowl edition. So hopefully a good day for everybody. Not
except if you're in Kansas City
or Kansas City. Yeah, if you're a Kansas City fan, it's not a good day.
Of course, I can't be heard because I'm muted. There you go.
Sorry, Henry.
It's yeah, I wanted to make an entrance before we actually started talking about the soccer, but yeah, about them Eagles.
How about them Eagles? Good Lord. I don't think I was expecting that. I mean,
not even a little
I don't think
bit.
you guys either.
Not even a little bit.
What's the MLS equivalent to what the Philadelphia Eagles did to the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl? Are we even allowed to say Super Bowl, by the way?
Why not?
Is that banned from the airwaves?
No.
Okay.
What?
That's when we get sued. I'm kidding. It's a bit.
No, I mean, look, Atlanta did beat a New England Revolution team 7-0 by a touchdown at one point. So, but that wasn't like a championship game or anything.
What is the largest victory in an MLS Cup? We should have. I should have pulled this up before the show started. I just thought of this. The highest margin of victory in an MLS Cup. I don't know. I'm just looking it up on the fly. I bet AI does, but
well, why you look that up?
Well, I have it. I actually have it. It took me like 20 seconds while you were trying to get AI. No, I'm kidding, of course. 4-2, San Jose beating the Chicago Fire in the 2003 MLS Cup.
Huh.
That is the largest margin of victory in an MLS Cup. Well, actually, no, it's not. Largest margin of victory, I'm sorry, it's 3-0. Columbus beating Seattle 2020. That's the largest margin of victory. You wouldn't think it was.
Really?
It's always going to be an asterisk next to that one, though, because
I know COVID.
That's fair. I mean, 3-0 is a pretty big deal in an MLS Cup, in a soccer championship game. It's pretty solid.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't much of the game, to be honest with you. But I feel like now that Super Bowl's out of the way, we could focus on soccer. MLS did their ad with Messi right after the game. Really well-timed ad on social, I might add. Of course, people grumble, oh, they chose Messi and all of that. So,
I mean, what did you expect?
I know. Face of the league and all that.
Yeah. No, it was good. I'm excited, you know, now that everybody's fake biggest game of the year is out of the way. We can move on to real football.
Real football.
No, last night, look, I'm always there for a good time. Last night was a good time. Great. Yeah, Kendrick won the Super Bowl for sure. Nobody
It's a good time for the Eagles fans.
It was a great time for the Eagles fans.
Not so much for the Chiefs fans.
Right. No.
Yeah.
Not so much for Patrick Mahomes.
And again, if your name is Drake, it was not a good day for you.
That's another topic for another day.
Yeah. So no, we got lots to talk about. We're going to talk about Lucho Acosta. We're going to talk about LA Galaxy, Orlando, obviously the preseason shindig that happened down in Florida for Atlanta United. A guy named Emmanuel Latte Lath.
Yes.
We'll go over some of the preseason games around the league because we are 12 days away from opening day.
12 days as of the time of this taping.
It is
it's amazing to think about.
So get it out of the way. Scarvesandspikes.com. You'll go visit the site and check out all the news, articles, everything coming out. This is going to be a very busy week. Next week, be a very busy week. And if you are a fan of writing yourself, we have a new feature on the website where you guys can go. If you would like to just throw your own opinion out there in article form, you can go to the website, click on the section in the menu that says Sideline Soapbox. Submit your own fan opinion piece. We'll get it published. Just another way for everybody to kind of give your opinions and tell everybody what you think in a different medium than being on Spaces or being on here in the comments or the other ways that you guys get involved. So yeah, that'll be a fun thing. We already have one up there by intern Jonathan, as it were, or as Tommy will call him. So that, and then patreon.com/scarves and spikes. Go get there, get in the Discord with us, all the other benefits, and go check out
and
the
new
shop.
merch too.
Yeah,
new merch.
Lots of new merch.
There's a link there. Get yourself some merch before the season begins. in 12 days. So you got to hurry.
All right.
Guys.
Latte new merch. Sorry, that was late.
Latte new merch.
You came in cold. I like it, though.
I'm getting warmed up. Sorry.
You're getting there. You're getting there. You're still in iced coffee.
Yeah.
Working.
Well, guys, I figure we should start, if you guys want, with Lucho Acosta.
Yep.
Speaking of hot, things aren't. No, sorry, I was going to try to segue, but it fell apart in the last second.
We're on a roll today, guys. Post Super Bowl hangover.
Start the show over. but no, Tom Bogert reporting, and we'll just get it. We'll start off with this. Tom Bogert reporting San Jose Earthquakes and FC Dallas are interested in Lucho Acosta, and game changer for either team. We talked about San Jose in the past here on the show, what they've been doing in the Bruce Arena since he stepped in, bringing in a lot of his guys. This would be the coup de grace, I should say, of moves for Bruce Arena. Dallas, too. Dallas has kind of been, I don't want to say also ran, but kind of a team to forget in the Western Conference, but they can get themselves a player like Lucho Acosta, former MLS MVP, of course. So many great years in Cincinnati. Seems like that is coming to an end. He kind of hinted at it after the playoffs ended for Cincinnati, and it seems like this thing has really come to a head. What do you guys think? Tyler, Henry, you surprised by this?
You go first, buddy. Now that you're getting warmed up.
Yeah. I'm building up fitness. I'm in preseason mode. But yeah, look, he makes sense for either of these teams. I think there's hardly a team in MLS, assuming that they have the need, that Lucho Acosta wouldn't make sense for. But looking at these two in particular, like Dallas, they need chance creation because in Petar Musa you have the goals, and like him last season, he had a decent season, and that was without a whole lot of actual support where he needed it. Dallas right now, the roster it's weird.
Decent.
it's not incredible. Like there's nothing that just shocks me or is like, oh well, this is a very clear improvement from where they were last season. Like,
well, Jesus Ferreira is gone. That's the big one.
And Paul Arriola.
Arriola is gone. Kind of reunited in Seattle. Kind of U.S. national team Northeast there. They have Tiki Sabaling, I should say. You mentioned picked up Musa. Took a little bit to come on for Dallas last year. They have Lucho Acosta, which is a good signing for them. But again, like you were saying,
he's inconsistent at Seattle.
Yeah.
So it's like that doesn't convince me, man. But if you get Lucho Acosta, you add him into the mix. Look, Petar Musa is the type of forward that is a very similar type of forward in my eyes that Brandon Vasquez was in Cincinnati. So if you get him there, that's already something that he's familiar with, more or less. It's a little bit different, but more or less. Now, San Jose, I mean, I think someone said it in the comments, they're trying to build an MLS fantasy team at this point.
Swinging for the fences, aren't they?
They've got Joseph Martinez, they've got Chicho Arango, they've got, they're assembling a whole just ensemble cast of, good MLS players under Bruce Arena. So he would thrive there also. Like either one of those would be good. I think, San Jose gets Lucho Acosta. They take a serious step towards being contender. I don't want to say they're there yet. I don't want to say they're contenders, but I think they're taking serious steps to, make an argument for being a kind of I want to say mid-tier playoff team, more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah, they look very competitive if they have Lucho Acosta. Granted, they do have, and I'm blanking on the name, an attacking midfielder already. Yeah. I think it's Hernan Lopez. Is that the name?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have him already. I think he's on a DP slot, and so obviously, if you're getting Lucho, you need him to be on a DP slot. There's no way you're going to get him for not DP money. So
yeah, absolutely.
You have to figure out how to move Hernan Lopez on, and I'm not sure if they could do that right yet. I don't know if there's interest, but I guess we'll see.
Well, let me ask you guys this real quick, though. Sorry, Tyler. Let me ask you guys this. kind of thinking about where he could end up, Lucho, today, do you foresee him probably a better fit in San Jose or a better fit in Dallas? Whoever wants to go first.
I mean,
where do you foresee that?
I think San Jose has the most upside. So I think, it does beg to go back to the first question. I mean, I think he's going to make the team better, right? Like we know this. Absolutely. But I think if you look at it from an overall roster building standpoint, I think Jackson Popkin, one of our writers, one of the guys for Scarves and Spikes, he dropped it in the Discord. He said, "This is Bruce Arena's revenge tour." Which is kind of what it feels like. This guy's bringing in everybody, and it does feel like if you were to get a guy that has the vision of Lucho Acosta to mix in with an Arango and a Joseph Martinez, then I mean, that's a dangerous coupling. But Dallas, I'm just not convinced. I'm not, and it's no disrespect to Dallas, but they just seem like a bunch of pieces thrown together, and it doesn't quite seem on paper to me cohesive yet. Whereas San Jose, you've got proven guys, right? You've got guys that have been around, what they can do, even if Joseph is playing with one leg sometimes, or, Chito Arango is getting suspended for being dumb, like whatever, what they can do. You throw a solid number 10 in that mix and you've got goals. Now, whether you can defend, that's a different story, but I would like, from a fan perspective, to see him go to San Jose.
What do you think, Henry?
I agree. San Jose. It seems like a more complete team, and a team that's a little bit more. It looks like it has more direction at this point than Dallas does, and that's just no offense to Dallas. It's just San Jose's work this offseason has been much better, in my opinion. Yeah. Granted, I will put this out there, and I might get some people that are upset after I say this, but
oh boy, I love you.
It looks like San Jose is assembling the trouble team. Here's what I mean. You have Joseph Martinez, who is known for being temperamental a little bit.
Just a little.
He here,
really?
I'm just saying, here in Atlanta, we're familiar with arroz con pollo.
Yeah.
To say it that way. He had his own story in Montreal, which his own disagreements with what's his name, coach over there. Yeah, Courtois over there. And now he's in another team. You have Chicho Arango, who was suspended for reasons last year after going on a goal scoring tear, comes back from that suspension and is like nothing like what he was before. And you have Lucho Acosta, who you're considering bringing in, who I'm not saying this whole situation in Cincinnati right now is his fault, but it seems like he's the one having problems with, the front office folk and this kind of thing. And, he did an interview and everything that was a little bit controversial, kind of saying things about the front office that he didn't feel supported, that, this, that, and the other, and I'm paraphrasing, but it seems like he also has kind of his baggage, to say in for lack of a better word.
Right. You
have that, and then you have Bruce Arena, who had that whole thing for which he was fired from New England, basically, or I don't remember how that, but parted ways with New England. Yeah, made to resign from New England. Trying to use the right terminology. But it seems like a recipe for trouble when you have so many players that kind of have that I guess temperament, kind of have, I don't know, these problems at other clubs. Like if they've had them at other clubs, it's pretty safe to assume that they're gonna bring that to San Jose. And if you put it all together, and if you put it all together, look, if they start the season and they win 5 of their first 6-7 games, for example,
no one's gonna care.
No one's gonna care. It's gonna be fine. The vibes are gonna be great. The music is gonna be blasting in the locker room. Everything's gonna be awesome. If they start the season and they lose like, or they do not win in their first like 7, 8. They go on like a 10-game winless streak.
Yeah,
that feels like a time bomb. Like that is going to explode at some point, where all those attitudes and all those personalities are it's going to get ugly, man.
Yeah, I'll throw this out there too. You mentioned Bruce Arena. I mean, he's not the most, I'll say, cuddly coach in MLS. So I feel like it takes a very special player, a very specific player to play for Bruce Arena. But I think for Lucho Acosta, who it looks like it's going to either be one or the other unless there's a dramatic turnaround in remains in Cincinnati. And we haven't even mentioned Kubo and Orejano, the situations they had, reporting late to preseason. I think if you're Acosta, San Jose is the place because you get to play under a coach that has had tremendous success in American soccer, not just in MLS, of course, but to some extent, to a large extent, in international soccer with the U.S. men's national team. FC Dallas, and Dan mentioned in the chat, just enough money they have with the Velasco, Ferreira, Areola moves, their outgoing transfers, they're flush with cash, a little bit flush with cash. And yeah, it's not a high spending team. Of course, picked up Musa. They paid a pretty good amount for him. I want to say it's a club record, but this is not really a typical FC Dallas move. And on top of that, you're playing with a coach that probably more geared toward younger players. I think that's why they hired Eric Quill to become the head coach of FC Dallas, because of his experience with younger players. And of course, FC Dallas have a great academy. So I feel like that's why they hired him. I don't really see, though, like you guys were saying, I don't really see Lucho in Dallas. I mean, it could happen, but I just feel like San Jose is the better fit for him at this point in time. C3 in the chat, get the documentary in there. I know MLS is doing their onside documentary. That might be a good subject for them.
This will be some good
San
content
Jose
for
locker room.
I don't know. You have the potential onside documentary. You have the potential 30 for 30. You have the potential for an episode of 60 Minutes as well. You never know
what 90 minutes.
It's going to be very interesting. So I guess my question is, like, Henry, you said you're just not quite sure about them maybe being the contender in the West. What would they need to do to be the contender in the West for you? If anything, I mean,
I would just have to see it all come together, because I'm like, look, here in Atlanta, we've been used to looking amazing on paper. It's when it comes to seeing the players on the field that, that's where the real test is whether these players can actually work together to play good soccer.
Yeah.
And right now they've assembled a very cool squad on paper. And if they get Lucho Acosta, like that, makes it, that sweetens the pot. But I have to see them play first before I cast judgment and say that they're a contender or not. It's hard to say right now because it looks good. But again, like, there's so many different dynamics when it comes to a roster that could make or break things. And so we need to see, how does Bruce Arena, what does Bruce Arena San Jose look like? How does Chicho fit in that equation? What is his role? How does maybe Lucho Acosta fit in that equation? What's his role? That kind of thing. So yeah, I just want to see them play.
That's a good point. You mentioned the contrasting personalities. How will they get on with each other? Joseph, he did get along with Tata Martino. He didn't get along with Laurent Courtois to some extent. They patched things up. How does he get along with Bruce Arena?
Yeah, see, with Tata, though, was, I think, that Bruce Arena kind of personality where he was strong enough to kind of say, no, this is how it's going to be, period. And there was enough respect there. And I think Joseph is one of those kind of guys that he needs a strong personality up there. We'll have the conversation till our ears bleed about Gonzalo Pineda and Joseph Martinez, but Gonzalo Pineda was not the kind of guy
No,
was
not
ever
at
going to
all.
earn, I think, the respect
Not
out
at
of
all.
Joseph Martinez, short of doing something just phenomenal. And that's just how some players are, and that's part of the baggage that you get. And it's not anything against Joseph; it's part of what makes him Joseph. That's his personality, and that's, to be fair, part of what makes him so ferocious out on the pitch. But if you don't have a guy there that's going to keep him in check and say, no, this is how it's going to be done, period.
Yeah.
Stop being a drama queen, then you're going to have issues like you had in Montreal, like you had in Atlanta at the end. So yeah, I mean, but either way, it's going to be entertaining TV. I think the moment that they go on a halfway decent, stretch of games where it's not good for them and it's good for the rest of the West, and things are not going their way, I think it'll be very, very fun to watch from an Eastern Conference standpoint.
And it's like Bruce Arena can manage egos, he can manage personalities, but can he manage that many of them? Is my question.
Yeah, without dropping another, I'm going to get sacked and removed and silenced for a year and a half comment.
Plus, he has his guys who played for him at New England, so you have that dynamic to throw in there. So a lot of a really intriguing storyline here with Lucho, either to San Jose or to Dallas. Certainly, I'm sure before the season begins, roster should be finalized by February 21st. I'm sure that this will become, I would assume, finalized by that date. Of course, big question is, if Lucho ends up leaving Cincinnati, who do you bring in? And it sounds like Evander, who went away from Portland, is a guy that they want to bring in as the replacement for Lucho. And listen, Evander, he's been terrific for Portland. Got MVP votes for the Timbers, despite them really just backing into the playoffs and just being a below average side. But he has driven that Portland team, and now he wants away. Of course, a lot of the drama going on between him and the Portland front office, saying they didn't keep their word. But it looks like that's a pathway for Evander. If the Cincinnati move works out with Lucho moving away, that they have their eyes set on Evander. And this is the power of the cash for player trade system that we're in right now. Cincinnati now, with presumably a lot of money coming in, if they end up trading Lucho to San Jose or to Dallas, they'll have a lot of money to spend that will open up that move to bring in Evander. I think if they bring in Evander, guys, I think Cincinnati, probably a top 3 team in the East, let's be honest, just based on what Evander has done and what he can do in this league. He's a proven quantity. And
Supporters Shield contender.
Supporters Shield contender.
Yeah.
Outside of Miami, of course. Outside of probably Atlanta, hopefully. But the thing is, say it again.
It's hard.
I'm not sold. I'm not sold.
On Cincinnati?
Nope. I mean, look, Evander, it absolutely is a big step in the right direction. No. But they had Lucho last year and fell off a cliff. Maybe not that bad, but they fell off. I don't think bringing in Evander is going to be the one thing that's going to fix the entire team. I mean, they had other issues going on last year, even with
they weren't healthy.
Really good number 10.
Well, they also just made a record-breaking signing for 3 months in Kevin Denke.
They're record-breaking signings, though. I'm curious how they're going to work out because
that's true. But I mean, I would expect if they paid that amount of money, they're expecting, golden boot level. Well, it's hard to say golden boot level at this point in MLS, but decent production from him. And if you get Evander, who was, I believe it was 15 goals, 19 assists last season, dude is a baller. He's a bit like a younger Lucho Acosta, but to me, he just has a little bit more flair. Yeah. And I like that. I think he's
taller.
And he's taller. He elevates Cincinnati if he goes there. I'll just say that much. And I think he's even better right now than Lucho Acosta is.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, let me throw this out there though. I mean, I mentioned the sort of front office situation between Lucho and Chris Albright, and sure by extension Noonan. With everything going on again with Cuba, with Orjano, does Evander kind of walk into that same situation? he's going to come in with this demand saying, hey, I want this. And, if I don't get it, I have no problem forcing move outside of Cincinnati. I don't know all the details. And there's a lot of great reporting out of Cincinnati. Laura Failer, she does a terrific job covering FC Cincinnati. I encourage you to check out her stuff to get a full view of what's going on up there. But there's been a lot of drama outside of Lucho among the two other players that I just mentioned. How does Evander get on with the Cincinnati front office? Again, if he doesn't get what he's wanting, and I assume it's a extended contract because he's going to want more money than he's being paid right now or that's conducive with the amount of production that he's put up that Henry just mentioned. So he was on 2.35 last year, total guaranteed compensation. And I would imagine, and I don't have the exact contract in front of me, let me pull it up, but I'd imagine he wants a lot more than that, moving on to what I assume will be the dying days of his contract. Again, let me just pull up right quick. I have it in front of me. Evander's contract, it ends in 2026. So maybe he was angling for an extension with Portland, and doesn't look like he's gotten it, but he's proven what he can do in this league, and he may have a chance to prove it in Cincinnati. Now, to your point, Henry, that you feel that Evander's better than Lucho Acosta at this point in time, he's going to need to prove it. He's always going to be playing in the shadow of Lucho Acosta, a player that elevated the profile of Cincinnati from an also-ran to one of the top teams in MLS. And of course, Tyler, like you said, they had that fall-off, but a lot of it was to the health, was to that defense. What can Cincinnati do to get themselves back on the right track if Lucho leaves? Is it Evander? Is it another player? They have a big decision to make, and they're going to need to make one quickly if they want to remain in the hunt for the Shield.
Yeah, I think it's just interesting because, I mean, these are all hypotheticals at this point, right? My question is, and feel free to jump in on this one because it's just kind of something I've been thinking a little bit about, but if these both go forward, right, this offseason, the MLS has lost a lot of talent, right? Last week we talked about Cucho. That's a big one. Yeah. But let's see who else. Bogusz out in LA. I mean, there's quite a few. But you have two number 10s in Lucho and Evander who sound like, because, and I saw Omar's comment earlier, it seemed like Lucho was just really angling to try to get back home. And I don't know that that's necessarily what the real reasoning was. It just sounds like, yeah, I'm pushing for a little bit more. Evander's probably pushing for a little bit more, considering what they've done for both of their respective clubs.
$3 billion.
Is it a good thing for the league as a whole to have very talented guys who are pushing a little harder to get paid more and get more time and get better contracts, etc.? Is that good for MLS in the long run when you have that kind of talent that kind of wants to stay here, but the league kind of has to figure out a way to pony up some money to make it happen?
Well, that's why you have the cash for player trade system, though, to keep those players within MLS and keep them. Of course, it worked for Bogusz, and then it worked for Cucho, of course. But we have players like Evander, players like Lucho, who, at least in Lucho's case, to an extent, I know, I think it was the Estudiantes that were looking at him. Yeah. But to the extent, he is open, it looks like, to remain in MLS. Evander looks like he is open to remain in MLS. And with this cash for player trade system, it allows teams that are ambitious to say, hey, this is a player that we feel can really elevate our team, and we're going to bring him in for X amount of money. There's no limit, remember, to the amount of money that these teams can, bring in these players for. So it's that internal league transfer market that is really going to get interesting. This is only the start. We've seen some trades already in MLS. I think this is only the start as teams begin to level up and, think about, hey, what do we want to be in MLS? What do we want to be in this league? This is only going to become a bit more or a lot more active market in future years as this system kind of takes hold in front offices. I think Tom Bogert wrote about it on Give Me Sport.
Henry, what you got?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, the cash trade player name thing that I'm trying to come up with. That basically, the idea of it is to keep your MLS talent in MLS as much as you can. Because before that, you had, for example, Yorgos Yakimakis, or you had who else? Brandon Vasquez, or Chicho Arango, even, who, there came an offer from Liga MX, and at the end of the day, back then, like, even if there were offers within MLS for those players, the best that you could do is get like GAM for it, maybe like an international slot, something like that.
Yeah.
But that's not really attractive to teams, especially when we're talking about usually the best player, one of the better players that these clubs have ever had, right? When we're talking about Brandon Vasquez, one of the best strikers in FC Cincinnati history, if not the best one, right? Yeah. We're talking about Yorgos Yakimakis, one of the best strikers in Atlanta United history that we're talking about. You don't want GAM for that. The clubs want money. They want a transfer fee. They want stuff that they can reinvest back into their squad in a more significant way, because these guys cost a little bit more. And so it's more attractive to sell them outside for $10 million than it is to sell them inside for, I don't know, $3 million in GAM plus a couple chicken nuggets. But now with the cash trade thing, it makes it so that MLS teams can be a little bit more competitive in that market. And if, for example, a player is disgruntled in their current home, and there is another MLS club out there that is willing to give them the contract that they're looking for.
Call it dollars for designated.
Yeah. They can stay within the league, and they can be happy elsewhere at a team willing to give them what they're asking for. And so that way MLS kind of retains a little bit more of its talent, because a lot of it has been moving away, which isn't a bad thing, but it's just when you have these players that you're getting familiar with and these kind of growing stars within the league, you want to keep them as much as you can because they draw attention. So I think it's good in the long run that, this cash trade system was instituted. I would like to see it expanded a little bit more, though, in the future, because right now I think you're limited to only 2 per season. So, I would like to see it expanded.
I think it will in the future.
From a Lucho and potentially Evander point of view, they get to keep that 10%. They get to keep 10% of the value of that transfer. Yeah. So there's something in it for the player too, right? It's not just a team thing where it's like, well, screw the player, like whatever happens. Like, the player can kind of push for it a little bit too, because they're going to get a payday. It might be a small payday, even though admittedly it's probably more than most of us make in a year. But it's a payday. So, I think the way that they came about, the details behind this do make sense for the point that I was bringing up. But at the end of the day, one of these teams is going to have to pony up the money, or 2 if you count both the players. So I'm just curious to see where it goes.
Yeah.
But
the West will be interesting.
Moving on. Yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting going forward from here, because now, you talked about San Jose, Henry being the kind of that one that could be, right? And the one I think everybody's looking at is either going to be a flaming dumpster fire or like top of the West.
Yeah.
The team that was top of the West, LA Galaxy, is becoming a flaming dumpster fire. We need to get Eduard back on and talk about this, because everything is just going wrong for the Galaxy preseason. Joseph Paintsil now out 6 to 8 weeks with a quad injury. So what do you think?
Nightmare scenario, man. Yeah. I mean, look, you already knew you were missing Ricky Puig for at least half the season, especially because his ACL injury came just at the worst time. It came so late in the season that he's missing at least the first half of the season. But now losing Joseph Paintsil as well, he was huge for the Galaxy last season. I have to see his
scored an MLS Cup
scoring numbers, but what was that?
Scored an MLS Cup.
scored an MLS Cup. But let me see if I can find his actual numbers. Yeah, he was, I believe, 10 goals, 10 assists last season. Those are important numbers, and it's going to be hard to make up that production. So I'm not sure what they're going to do, man. I mean, they did have to sell Dejan Joveljic to Sporting Kansas City.
No.
They replaced him with Christian Ramirez, who I think is a decent replacement for him. Christian Ramirez is experienced. He's good. Superman Ramirez, let's go. He would be fine there. And I think he played in their last preseason game as a trialist, which I think is hilarious.
Right.
But man, they're going to need some serious people. They're going to need some people to step up majorly with just the holes that are in the roster at this point. Like opening day, they're going to be down two of their biggest chance creators, two of their most important attackers. You still have Gabriel Peck, which is good. You still have Marco Royce, but can he play 90 minutes? Probably not. And then you have CONCACAF Champions Cup to worry about also. Yeah. That's going to be interesting to see how they manage their minutes.
It'll be tough sledding for them over the first few weeks of the season. And speaking of striker, kind of dip into this now. Talks of them bringing in Matheus Nascimento Nascimento, I think is pronounced, from Botafogo, so a teammate of Thiago Almada's down there in Brazil. According to Tom Bogert, they're looking to bring him in, finalizing the deal. So sounds like that's your Joveljic replacement. Question is, will he pan out? I assume it's going to be on a DP deal or U22. Will he pan out? Would he be the player that they expect him to be? He'll have a lot to live up to. Nascimento will, considering what Joveljic did, and before that, Chicharito did for the Galaxy. So immediately, as soon as he steps on the field, and look, it's a Galaxy, right? There's some pressure of putting on that shirt, considering what they've meant to the history of MLS. So immediately, there's going to be that pressure to perform. And if he doesn't do that right out of the gate, whenever he gets integrated with the Galaxy, there's going to be a lot of questions. So hopefully for the Galaxy, this pans out because, again, you have a lot of holes to fill. You have a lot of injuries. And Royce is a one that you mentioned, Henry. Just his age, he wasn't that great, let's be honest, when he came on with the Galaxy.
Apart from the game against Atlanta.
Yeah, apart from Atlanta.
That tends to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it sucks for their Champions Cup aspirations for sure. But at the end of the day, it's the end of this season that's the most important. And you have time, even if things go really bad for the first half of the season, you have time to build it back up and make it to the playoffs, because that's all you have to do. Make it to the playoffs, and then you go from there. We've seen it time and time again. Atlanta was one of the best examples of it last year. But, I mean, so was Red Bulls in the final, right? Like, they had no business being there, and they did, because that's the MLS playoff format. So it might suck in the beginning, but if they can get it straightened up, I mean, they might limp into the summer, but if they can get it figured out after that and get, Ricky Pooch back really, really proper, I think you're still looking at a team that is going to be very dangerous in the West. I'm not super concerned about them, but everybody's going to be being like in the beginning, the first 4 months, especially, everybody's going to be like, oh my God, what happened to the Galaxy? They're going to be okay. I really think they're going to be okay.
It happened to the Crew last season too.
Yeah.
They started off a little bit rough, but part of that was CONCACAF Champions Cup, because they went all the way to the final. I don't know if the Galaxy are going to be able to make it to the final with their current roster. I really doubt it, but they could still make a decent run in the competition. Again, managing the minutes is where it's at.
Depends on the draw. Like, I'm under no illusions that they're going to make a deep run in Champions Cup, but it depends on the draw. They'll get off the opening round, I think, but I don't see them making a Crew type run. They're just too injured to beat up. Yep. It is what it is. It is what it is. That's the luck of the draw for the Galaxy right now. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with Nascimento when he gets integrated and brought in for the Galaxy.
Yeah. I mean, if he has anywhere near the success of his predecessor, then they'll be okay. Really will.
Predecessors.
Yeah. So Henry, we talked about this, all of us, last week, but now that it's official, but Henry, I got to go to you first because you are, we were in the car on the way to Birmingham when this rumor dropped, and you were like, you almost jumped out of the car. But Orlando has officially announced Eduard Atuesta.
Okay.
I'm being a little dramatic.
I wouldn't say I almost jumped out of the car,
he
but
did roll the window down and take the seatbelt off.
Look, man. Atuesta is a player that I've been wanting for Atlanta United for the longest time, and he's going to Orlando. It's a fantastic get for Orlando, and I think we've talked about this before. I don't remember if we already discussed this, but Atuesta, midfield maestro. He's very talented. He's got good dribble on him. He's a very good progressor of the ball. Orlando is going to be down Wilder Cartagena, so he's going to slot right into that midfield, and he's going to do some work, man. They also got Marco Pasalic. He was also made official, I believe, last week. It looks like they've got their roster for the most part for at least this window. We're going to see, man. They look pretty competitive. They look like they can make they look like they could push the competition, I think. I'm just going to say that much. But Atuesta is a huge signing for them.
How can that attack gel? How can they gel? How can they come out right out of the gate? These are new players that you won't have with you for preseason. You have Atuesta, I believe. He has a green card. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Pasalic certainly does not. So you're going to have to wait for him to come in and get himself integrated into the team. So how quickly can a player like Pasalic come in and integrate himself? How quickly can he come in and make an impact on Orlando City? Because this is a team, and I've mentioned this so many times before with Orlando City. They haven't been able to quite get over the hump. Seems like every year they start out slow. They make this massive run in the second half of the season. They get to the playoffs and they kind of fall apart. They nearly didn't make it as far as they did. Like Facu Torres, if he didn't score at the death against Charlotte, this is a whole different conversation. And I don't know, are we talking about Oscar Pereira as head coach in 2025? But I don't say it's a make or break year. I don't want to say it's a hot seat year for Oscar Pereira, but you certainly have the talent, at least up front, to become a lethal team. But again, how does this attack integrate? How can they come together? And again, you have Atuesta. He has a green card, so I'm not worried about him. But once Pasalic gets in here, once he starts training with the team, can he build that quick chemistry with Romano Enrique and Duncan McGuire, Luis Muriel? Just that attacking forward group that Orlando is hoping can lead them to new heights, hopefully for them, MLS Cup.
They have a tendency also to start off slow. And
last year.
Yeah, and the year before. And then at the summer transfer window happens, and it really, Leagues Cup, the way it was the past 2 years, is what it was kind of the moment they come out of Leagues Cup, and then they're on fire. And that's just kind of an Oscar Pereira thing. It just seems like since he's been the coach, they're either hot or cold. But their biggest issue last year, like they could have been a great team if they could just score one more goal every couple of games.
Yeah.
They shot themselves in the foot so many times because it just, even for a guy that was as talented as Facu Torres, he wasn't as consistent as I think he needed to be, and there wasn't anybody there to pick up the pieces. Then, of course, at the end of the season, McGuire gets hurt. He's still going to be out. So they're going to be coming in with the chips stacked against them again. So I don't know. I mean, maybe we see more of the same, but I do think, like, at some point, if Pereira cannot get them over the edge, over that hump, like the Open Cup is one thing. That was a couple of years ago. Right. That was great for them.
Right.
But if he can't do it, I just don't. It's almost one of those where it's like, I guess you could hang on to him a little bit longer, but it's almost like, is there some greener grass somewhere else that maybe you could go get?
Yeah. you part ways with them mutually or something like that. Yeah. You don't have to think you fired him, but
you give him the Jim Curtin treatment.
Give him the Jim Curtin treatment, exactly.
It could be interesting. Pay a team in Colombia $700, and
yeah,
we'll see. I don't know. I mean, I am curious about Orlando.
Yeah,
from an Atlanta perspective, I hope they suck, but this is the MLS show, so I'm trying to be a little more.
You have to be neutral, Tyler.
But no, they're I was very worried about them a couple of weeks ago. I really was, and I even said it on the show. I was like, I just don't. They haven't impressed me. Like, they haven't done anything that has told me they're going to be a contender, and they have now. 2 weeks ago, they were in my Philadelphia and Chicago boat because they still haven't done anything that I'm like, that really pushes them to the next level. Yes, Chicago's brought in Bamba. Philly has, I don't even know. Something. Philly is hit Control Alt Delete on the next 3 seasons. I don't know what they're doing, but Orlando, I think could be a genuine playoff contender for sure.
Philly won a Super Bowl, so they're fine. They don't.
Yeah. And you know what happened the same year Philly won a Super Bowl?
LA United won MLS Cup.
They sure did.
Hey.
They sure did.
We're so back.
We're so back, and we're on Visa Watch.
We are on Visa Watch for Latte Lath.
So, Emmanuel Latte Lath was down with the team in Florida. He and a few others right.
He's training by himself, right? He can't train with the team.
He's training by himself. He watched the game from the bleachers, literally sitting right behind me when we were there. Brooks Lennon is there. There was a handful of guys, Matt Edwards, a lot of the guys that you didn't see or who are injured were obviously just sitting there watching.
Yeah.
Side note, super fun to just sit there while I'm like typing an article and I'm having these like subdued reactions to the way the game's going. And I'm hearing like all these Atlanta United players and they're just like fans. They're just enjoying it like we are. I don't know if y'all saw it on the stream because I haven't seen any of what the stream looked like, but there was a foul, I think in the second half, on Jamal Tiare. He was fouled. He totally did the fouling. Like he totally should have gotten called for the foul, not been the one fouled against. And when that happened, it was right in front of us. And we were like, oh, she blew the whistle. Clearly that was Jamal Tiare's fault. And then the ref, she gestured that it was Atlanta's ball, free kick.
Right.
And we're all just sitting there like literally everybody, me, Doug, comms guys, the players were like, I look around like Matt Edwards is sitting there like that face. And Doug was like, I guess the refs are in preseason too.
Yeah, it's preseason for refs too.
Yeah, you gotta get that. But it was a fun. So,
but anyway. Latte Lath Visa Watch.
Yeah.
Is it happening by February 22nd, you think?
I think so. My opinion, I would be shocked if it wasn't, but I do know that they're pushing really hard to make sure it happens. I mean, there's only so much you can do, right? You're dealing with the government. A government. It doesn't matter what government it is. You're dealing with governments, and governments are notoriously very fast, and they move so quickly. So, but no, I don't think it's going to be an issue. We'll see. Knock on wood. And you got to remember too, there's always a chance that he gets it in time, but maybe Dial is like he hasn't spent enough time, gelling with the team. Maybe we put in Togashi or Jamal Tiare who have spent the entire preseason. There's like other factors involved. I don't see that happening, but it is a possibility.
Sort of the inconvenient truth of the whole thing, but it's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
Edgar Esky, by the way, is he injured? Sorry. Edgar Esky, is he injured?
Let me throw this out there too, because this was from Dyla's comments when I talked to him after the match. He's good to go. He is good to go, Edgar. Yeah. And anybody else is kind of wondering about the whole groin thing, good to train, good to go. Obviously cannot train with the team until the visa is official, but he is all set. And on that note, side note, Steon Gregerson, a lot of people asking about him. I don't know if y'all saw that we reported that day that he should be, but Dyla said he should be playing the game on Wednesday. So he is well on his way back too. So there we go.
Visa watch. We need a sounder or something like that.
I know. We really do, because it becomes like such a part of these preseason episodes and the summer window episodes to a degree, but we're gonna get a good sound effect.
So we're at the point of preseason where we have MLS teams playing MLS teams, you know, except if you're Inter Miami, you're playing like San Miguelito. Where's San Miguelito, by the way?
San Miguelito is, oh crap, I remember this.
You forgot.
Yeah, I wrote about it.
I'll look it up. I'll look it up.
No, hold on.
San Miguelito.
Panama. Still got it.
Yeah.
San Miguelito, Panama, Sede Olimpia, the biggest club in Honduras. Yeah, that's part of the Inter Miami Eras tour. They beat Sporting San Miguelito 3-1. That was February 2nd. And then they absolutely curb stomped Olimpia 5-0 on Saturday night.
And proved absolutely nothing doing it, by the way. Like, what are you proving? What are you proving? Like,
you learned nothing from last year on your globetrotting tour that ruined half your team for half the season. Like, whatever. I mean, it's a money grab.
To be fair to them, at least they didn't go like all the way to Saudi Arabia. They only went to South America and back.
Give them credit. Yeah, give them credit.
They're like, we have to reduce the distance here. Like, we want to do a world tour, but this time only the American continent.
Alba was injured, right?
He was injured for the last game. He did not play.
Yeah.
Healthy enough to go to the Super Bowl, though.
Yeah, they got back in time for that.
That was fast.
Alba, Messi.
Like, they booked it out of Canada. Right? They booked it out of Honduras, and then like the next day they were there for the Super Bowl. All four of them.
New Orleans. I wonder if either of them have been to New Orleans. Has Messi been to New Orleans, by the way?
I don't think so. Why would he have been there?
I can't see a reason why he would have been.
There's no MLS team there, so.
Check out Bourbon Street just like you do as a tourist.
I would love to be a fly on the wall down Bourbon Street as Messi just wandered around, you know, like the French Quarter. Like, hey, what is this food? What? You can buy? What is a hurricane?
Dumbo.
No, Messi, that is a drink, and you should be careful.
Yeah. Be careful looking up at the balconies, too. Might see some things you... Never mind.
And then serious preseason form, but we got some other teams in preseason form. Shall we run through some of the results here?
Let's call them out. And
call them out.
Pick some to go in on.
All right, so we actually have two sets of preseason results. We have what was February 3rd through 5th. We have Houston 3, New England 3. Austin and LA Galaxy tied at 1. Chicago loses to LAFC 1-0. SKC and NYCFC scoreless draw. Portland beating San Jose 2-1, and then RSL and St. Louis tied at 1. I mean, honestly, if I had to watch any of those, I would go back and watch the Houston New England game because 6 goals sounds like fun.
Yeah.
But the rest of
I don't know if Houston gave up 3 goals all of last season. Their defense was pretty stout.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
I mean, I think you'd be stretched to find one where they gave up a significant amount. Like, of course, like, we can't take anything out of this, right? This is preseason. But
it's preseason.
It is interesting because we had these conversations a minute ago about Portland and Evander and then San Jose and the drama queens and everything else. I'm curious how that one played out in terms of who played and things like that. But yeah, I mean, sometimes it's fun to just take a look and see like how bass backwards some of these these preseason matches turn into, because you can't take a lot out of them before you go into the season.
So by this account, we should assume, and not to get too far ahead of ourselves, that on Saturday, Montreal beat Orlando 2-0 in preseason. So clear Montreal is going to be top of the East.
Yeah.
Judging by that result alone.
And judging by that first set, Portland's winning the West. So.
You're getting a little ahead of me, but let's get to the second round of those preseason results this past weekend. Cincinnati 4-1 over Philadelphia. And we just mentioned, like, what in the world is Philly doing? But 4-1. There you go. Colorado, DC tied at 1. FC Dallas and Houston. The Texas Classic, also opening day matchup. 2-2. Atlanta United obviously beat the Revs 2-0. Austin and St. Louis tied at 1. Portland beat Chicago 1-0. Montreal beat Orlando 2-0. NYCFC 3-1 over the New Boys. San Diego FC.
San Diego.
Yeah, oof. And then the Red Bulls 1-0 over San Jose. Not a fun time for San Jose in preseason. Looks like they really, 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 really want Lucho Acosta. The New Boys also getting a taste of MLS competition, and not a good one. What do we think, guys?
Portland.
Preseason.
Portland's on a heater, man.
Portland winning the Shield.
Yeah. You know what the one was missing? Sporting Kansas City and Minnesota. Because there were all the memes yesterday coming out about Minnesota. Their Twitter game was on point for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because one of the ones that they put out was, I think at halftime, it was like, raise your hand if you've scored 6 points on a team from Kansas City today. It was them. So 6-0.
I didn't see the official results, but wow.
Yeah.
If that's real,
I do want to throw out real quick on the Cincinnati friendly against Philadelphia. Kevin Denke coming out. He had some swelling, according to Pat Noonan. He took a pretty nasty collision, it looks like, against Philly. The club's social media team posted a picture of Denke's eye, pretty swollen, but it said that he is okay. So something to monitor, possibly for Cincinnati, but it seems like just took a pretty heavy hit. Looks like he'll be back for the regular season. So I think you want to wrap him in bubble wrap though, because you don't want your second best MLS record signing getting too beat up before the season begins, guys.
So
but
speaking of, sorry, Sydney, but speaking of like unofficial preseason results, we don't know the exact score of this game. I've heard a couple of variations of it, but the most accepted one seems to be that Nashville beat Columbus 4-1 on February 8th. That was Saturday. 4-1. Columbus is feeling the sting of not having Pucho Hernandez, huh?
It would seem that way.
Yeah.
But also, to be fair, conceding 4 goals, like, oof. What happened there, man?
Especially to a team like Nashville, which preseason or not, BJ Callahan's not been there long enough to fix anything, but they are not known for scoring a lot of goals.
No.
It's not.
Is it Nashville sneakily improving, or is it that Columbus is just drastically worse because of Cucho leaving?
Or third option, it's preseason.
You can't play that card all the time, Tyler. Come on.
Nashville could legit be sneaky, this season. I really do feel that way. All joking aside, I think like you got to give them a little bit of credit, but it would be nice to have something to look at and say like, oh, well, we saw this out of this match, but we can't because it was kind of like the Atlanta-Orlando match where you can't watch it, right? Like, cool, it was 1-1, but that's about all you can take out of it.
And again, I mentioned it before. Yeah, this is the point where you're starting to play against MLS competition. Like Atlanta United will take, for instance, you played against lower division teams. Now you're playing against MLS teams. You're starting to leave your starters in there for extended periods of time, 60, 70 minutes before you bring in your second string guys, so to speak. So this is where you start to really hope to see improvement in teams. This is where you really start to see sort of those tactics and that tactical mindset really take hold for teams around this time of year, this part of the preseason. And, as we move on midweek, as we move on toward the weekend, teams will probably have maybe 1 or 2 friendlies to go each before they return home if they've traveled and get ready for the regular season. So always interested to see, how things work out. We kind of joke it's preseason, but around this time of the preseason calendar, you really want to see how you measure up against opponents that you'll be facing in the regular season potentially. So certainly, you don't want to take too much from it, but at the same time, this is where they start to get serious as far as preseason is concerned.
Yeah.
But again, less than 2 weeks ago to the regular season. It's crazy how quickly the season comes by. It's crazy how quickly the off season flashes by after MLS Cup.
We talked to Dyla at the end of the Atlanta New England match, and he was talking about how Atlanta had kind of measured up to MLS opponents at this point. And I think anybody that watched the Atlanta New England match, Atlanta was the better team by far. Like,
yeah,
they controlled the game. They did pretty well with playing out of the back. I mean, there were a couple of nervy moments, right? Like, it wasn't that like New England didn't have any chances, but their chances were very minimal. And that's what you want, right? You got to keep the opposing team's opportunities to as minimum as you can.
Yeah.
They controlled the game. They passed better. It was crisper. There was more discipline. It was a progression in every way that you have seen. And they played more time than I think anybody thought they were going to play. The starting 11 was 65, 70 minutes. So the fitness is getting there,
right.
But Dyla did say, from an Atlanta perspective, they measured up well against Orlando too. He said, Orlando's got a good side they're building. And we matched them. We did well. So I know we can't take a lot from it we didn't see it, but your head coach is saying, hey, we did pretty good. That's a good sign. But then you look at some of these other teams, and again, we haven't watched all these preseason games. Some of them you can't watch, but
Nashville.
Yeah, Nashville. But you're at that point now where, like, with such little time left before the season starts, your starters and some of your, guys that could be starters, they about need to be 85, 90-minute fit. Like, and then you fine tune the rest of it. So I don't think you saw that with New England, and I know we're going from an Atlanta perspective because I think that's one, it was an easy one to watch compared to some of the other ones, but Atlanta podcast. It was good to see from an Atlanta perspective how fit the guys were compared to New England, who they looked winded very quickly, relatively speaking.
Yeah. So again, 12 days, guys. Hard to believe. Less than 2 weeks. We'll be talking about collectively as Scars and Spikes talking about LA United versus CF Montreal. Exciting times. Exciting times.
Final thoughts.
That was my final thought.
Okay, we'll take it.
We managed to stay almost close to the hour mark.
I know. I don't see the show next Monday or Wednesday being that short, but we'll see.
You win some, you lose some.
It'd be what
we'll work it out.
This is a good one, though. This is a good one. I mean, we've covered all the big stuff that happened. So, but yeah, scarveandspikes.com, guys. Go check it out. I'll say the same stuff I said earlier, and I'll also throw this in. Even if you don't listen to us on the audio stream, go to your podcatcher, whatever one you might happen to have downloaded. If you have an iPhone, you've got Apple Podcasts. Go find the new audio feed and subscribe to it. Take a screenshot of it and tag us on social media with that screenshot, and that will enter you into a chance to win a $25 gift card. And then if you want to go and you just want to get your opinions out there on a website about the team, about MLS in general, about whatever, go to scarvesandspikes.com, click on Sideline Soapbox at the top, and you can submit whatever opinion piece that you want to put out, and we will get it published on the website.
We'll see you.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and if you're an Atlanta United fan, please make sure to fill out the survey that we sent out, basically asking for your predictions for the season. And if you are a member of the Scarves and Spikes staff who has not submitted their response, and I have told them numerous times to do so.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not one of those people.
I'm not one of those people either.
Really?
Just send the text or DM, man. Come on.
Me? I did mine like 4 or 5 days ago.
Where? Okay. Anyway,
what do you mean where? The link you gave us.
The staff link?
I don't look. I did the link that I was provided.
You guys worked that out.
We'll work this out at another time, but
By the way, Atlanta United back on the field preseason on Wednesday. They're taking on FC Cincinnati. Don't know the time yet for that, but of course we'll talk about that on Wednesday's show. And don't know if we'll have a guest for Wednesday. Stay tuned to our socials for that information. We will announce it when we find out.
Get you guys all the infos. Promise.
Yep.
As soon as we can get it.
Yep.
And with that,
that's it.
That's it for MLS Monday.
Music.
Cue it up. We'll see y'all on Wednesday. It's gonna be a busy week.
Yep.
Busy week.
Busy.
Jerseys coming out, maybe.
Loxy said, I want to write a story titled Why Everyone on Reddit is Wrong About Brooks Lennon. All it means, Loxy, you go right ahead. Who was wrong about Jurgen Damm, though? Who was wrong about Home Alone 3? What is life?
Don't you get all philosophical on me, Tyler?
I can only be philosophical for so long. I'll start talking to myself.
Can I hit end stream?
Please
Sure. Probably should. Before I really do start talking to myself.